Hello everyone and welcome back to the Do Digital YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to be talking all about how you can create your very first class on Skillshare and start earning money passively. So since I made a bunch of videos about being an instructor on Skillshare, including how much money I make on Skillshare and more recently how I've been paying my rent on Skillshare, people have been asking me a lot of questions around how it is that I got started and how you guys can get started too. So I'm really thrilled to kind of share my insights. I've been on Skillshare since May of 2020, so that's about 6 or 7 months. I have made about $2,000 on Skillshare and I have over 1,200 students. So I really feel like I'm on my way to, reaching new frontiers on the platform, and it would be so super cool if I could share some of those insights with you guys today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Megs and every week I release tech tutorials helping you do digital better. Alright, so for today's video, I'm going to be running you through my Notion checklist in terms of how exactly you can structure your course on Skillshare, and just make sure that it's beautifully structured and set up in such a way that it's straightforward and not as overwhelming to form. So in terms of Skillshare's blog, they actually do have really beautiful resources on there. And so I stole their kind of way of structuring course setup because they had beautifully put it as plan, produce, publish, and promote. And I felt like I can't do it better than that, so I'm going to steal with pride. So I've basically given this Notion board those 4 columns. And in the plan column, which we're going to start with, I'm going to run you down everything that I did when I was planning for my first Skillshare class, or didn't do at all and probably wish that I had done. So let's get straight into planning. So the biggest question, and probably the most important question that you're going to ask yourself if you go down this journey of teaching on Skillshare is, what can I teach? So in terms of topic inspiration, I've made some points here for you guys. So someone asked me a really great question yesterday, whether you can use Google Analytics to help you create Skillshare courses. And my answer was quite straightforward. If you have a website with a lot of content, like a blog, for example, and you're able to actually get analytics from that, which demonstrate to you that perhaps one topic is more popular than another, then by all means use that information. However, that obviously predicates that you do have that data at your fingertips and also that the sample size is actually meaningful. So Google Analytics, I'm definitely going to put an asterisk next to that and just say, use it with discretion, because obviously your sample size might not be huge, but it could be a useful way of getting some tips. The second thing that I would suggest looking at in lieu of Google Analytics, if you don't have a website that has Google Analytics installed, is a completely free tool from Google that allows you to actually see what search interest is around a topic, or a comparison of 2 topics or 3 or 4. And it's really great because you can filter by time and you can also filter by country. So what that allows you to do is, for example, I make YouTube videos about Skillshare. I can actually compare the search volume of Skillshare, Udemy, Teachable, and any of the kind of online learning platforms, and then see, actually Skillshare doesn't have the biggest search interest. Maybe I should be making videos about teaching on Udemy. So Udemy, for example, absolutely kills Skillshare in terms of search results. So that could be one way of doing it. However, in my case, I don't currently have courses live on Udemy. So do you want to watch a course from me about Udemy? Probably not. And that was my whole point to this lovely subscriber, is you still have to talk from your own area of expertise and something that you're passionate about, because creating a course is a lot of work. And so I'm not passionate at this stage of my life about creating for that particular platform, so I can't speak with authority about it, and it would be very disingenuous if I did. So yes, of course, you want to have some data at your fingertips, but most of the time you have to still teach what you are good at. So I would suggest maybe making a list of all your skills, and then you can compare which potentially has more search interest than another. However, speaking of Udemy, Udemy does have something called Marketplace Insights, and I do believe you have to create a login to actually see this. And go down the process of becoming an instructor, which is obviously completely free as well, but it basically unlocks this whole new section, which is called Udemy Marketplace Insights. This is great because you would assume that Udemy has a similar kind of algorithm to Skillshare's algorithm, in that you're able to get some feel for what is popular and competitive on Udemy is likely to be popular and competitive on Skillshare, but there are some nuances in the platform. So I'm not gonna put my money on this and that this is the absolute best approach to take. But if you are really feeling like you're starting from nowhere, it could be a good resource to look into. Then another tool that I suggest when you are thinking about your topic, and the reason I've put it in so early, is planning your course is really everything. Like, it came through to me on the Skillshare blog as well. The planning process is going to make everything more straightforward. So if at all possible, do not try and jump past the step, because what you're actually wanting to do with the planning process is really make your life simpler moving forwards. So I'm suggesting Trello or Notion. I'm sure you guys can guess what I would use. I love Notion, but I have used Trello and that's great too. Basically, you just need something with a Kanban layout, which has the boards, aka those columns and little tabs, and ones that you can drag and drop in between, because what you're going to want to do is obviously structure your course and be able to change it around as you see. So I would definitely suggest using a planning tool, because I was using a pen and paper and it wasn't pretty, guys. So then another great tip that I actually saw on the Skillshare blog: ask yourself, what would I have loved to have learned when I was new at this? And that's really the inspiration for a lot of my courses. Like, I have a course on Skillshare about how to become a YouTuber, and that whole course is basically what I wish I knew when, I started. And I think it's a really great way of putting yourself in the user's shoes, trying to work out what are the FAQs and what are the things that really were stumbling blocks in the beginning for you. So that could also be a great source of inspiration. And then finally, there is a blog post which has a tool evaluator, which I will link to down below, which is basically a matrix with interest level and audience size. So this of course isn't a perfect science. It's more about what, when chatting to friends, chatting to family, you're kind of trying to place things into whether you think there's a lot of interest and whether or not you think there will be an audience size. So you don't want, for example, something to have a small audience size and very little interest, but you might want to target a very small niche. So have a small audience size and know that it's small going into it, but then know that those people are exceptionally excited about X topic. Or you could go for a crowd pleaser, which, for example, people are less interested in, but there's a broader amount of interest, or the sweet spot, which is obviously that there's a big audience and people are deeply interested. If you find a topic like that, please comment it down below. In general, with topics, obviously people are quite secretive about how they come up with these things, because, that's part of the game that you're playing. It's the same as making YouTube videos and trying to feed the algorithm. Speaking of feeding the algorithm, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, I would be so grateful. It helps my channel so much. Then we're going to move on to the fact that your Skillshare class needs to be project based. So I 100% underestimated this when I got started with my Skillshare class. I was like, girl, I'm going to think of a project at the end of my course. Well, let me tell you, it's best to center your course around something very practical. So in terms of Skillshare, they favor learning by doing. So you're going to want to think of the task up front and structure your course around it rather than vice versa. So all classes on Skillshare have to include a fun project, because they feel like it is an imperative part of the learning journey, and I couldn't agree more. So creating and sharing projects, giving and receiving feedback also means that you get that one-on-one time with your teacher online. And if people do comment about my course or have questions, I make it a priority to get back to them as soon as I can, because otherwise you just feel like you're teaching into an abyss. So it really is nice for the instructor as much as it is for the pupil. But yes, the project is very, very important. Then in terms of the content format, it needs to be focused and digestible. So Skillshare classes on average are between 20 and 60 minutes of pre-recorded video and can be as little as 10 minutes. But what you are wanting to do is obviously break your videos up into 2 to 5 minute segments. So you don't want to have an hour-long monologue. You want to make it as exciting as possible. And on that exact note, I've put here varied content forms and spaces. So your class should contain varied visuals throughout. So you want to be kind of mixing it up. If you can set up a phone in addition to your camera. Then you could have maybe 2 lens views, which adds some visual intrigue. You could also have what I have now, which is a screen recording on the screen. So you really want to be mixing it up as much as possible, but I will say that PowerPoint slides do help a lot in order to do that. And there's a lot of screen recording software out there, so really that shouldn't be a problem. I do know that a lot of people use Loom, which means that you don't have to overlay in editing your face onto the video, which is how I currently do it. It actually does that for you. So definitely worth checking out if you don't back yourself on an editing platform. And we're going to get to those in just a sec. So your slides need to be well structured, visually appealing. You can use Canva for this. It's beautiful. PowerPoint, Keynote, you name it. But just be sure that if you are using my approach, which is actually matching up the talking head shot with the slide, that you have like maybe a gray block in the bottom right hand corner of your slide so that there's space for your head to go and it's not kind of interfering with any content that you have on the screen. Then you also want to have spaces. So what I mean by spacer is at the beginning of a segment, you might want to have a title slide or an animation that intros people into the next piece of your course, and vice versa. You may want to have outros. So this is really important from a student's perspective because they are basically getting visual affirmation that they finished with that section or that they're starting with a new section. So that is a great hack too. In terms of scripting, people ask me if I script my videos. No, I don't. But as you can see from Notion, it really does give you a great outline and then you're not rambling, because that would be the absolute worst case scenario. Then in terms of the feedback that I get on the course, so I thought when I published my courses, I was like, these are jam-packed with like actionable tips and tricks and hacks, and you guys know how my videos go. But the number one piece of feedback that I receive is that people want more tips, tricks, and hacks. So the more kind of digestible, nuggety bits of juice that you can give to people, the better. So I would really suggest including wherever possible just the most pragmatic hacks and tools that you can. In terms of equipment, I'm going to share exactly my setup with you now quickly so that you can see how that looks. Okay guys, so this is my very unglamorous Skillshare / YouTube setup. It basically just comprises of a halo light, which should actually probably be quite a bit closer to where I sit, but because I have a 50mm lens, it has to be quite close to the camera because 50mm lenses zoom in quite a lot. So I love the 50mm lens because it creates a blurry background and I just really have been enjoying it a lot. This camera strap is obviously non-essential, but how beautiful is it? It's from a local brand called Lens Love, which I can also link down below for any South Africans who are interested. And then this Canon is a 760D. I really do love it, and yeah, I've just had the best time filming with it. The flip screen is really helpful because obviously you can see yourself. Then I have my Rode microphone, which I will link down below. So it probably always looks like I'm so professional when I'm on camera, but there's a whole lot that goes on behind me in terms of equipment, but that is par for the course. So yeah, do what you can. If you need to use bookshelves, go for that. And it's really part of the fun is just getting your equipment as you like it, the lens that you love, and most of all, just make sure that it's affordable and totally within your budget, and you can make pretty much anything work. The other thing is if you are going to buy a mic and you only want to do kind of these sorts of sit down scenarios, then a lavalier mic is obviously the one that's most fit for purpose. But because I had aspirations of being a vlogger, I've got this one that actually fits onto the top of the camera, which I lay a cable towards myself with. So it just depends on if you have other aspirations for using your microphone. Then in terms of editing software, I've popped a whole list on the screen. So for Mac, you've got iMovie, DaVinci, ScreenFlow, Final Cut, Adobe Premiere Pro. And for PC, you have DaVinci, VSDC, Filmora, Lightworks, Camtasia, and Premiere Pro. So I use iMovie. I find it the most straightforward, it's very quick, but it doesn't allow you to do things like color grade, and it's pretty basic software. So if that's a problem for you, you're definitely going to want to look at other ones. I know that DaVinci Resolve, for example, is free and it might be a little bit more advanced than iMovie, so that could be a good kind of step up. And then when I am feeling fancy pants, I do like to dabble in Premiere Pro for things like video coloring and that sort of thing, and titling, because iMovie is a little bit templatized. But it's kind of like Apple versus Android. You are going to get 100 different opinions about what editing software to use. So take it or leave it. So the next thing we're going to be doing is actually producing the content. So I'm assuming that you have a rough indication of what you want in your course, but I would suggest that you have between 6 to 10 subsets of your Skillshare course. And this is a great kind of starting point. So you can see my course sections here. So I've actually put the promo video as the first item, but I would suggest shooting this last. I've just put it at the top because it's one of the most important things, because obviously it gets people to sign up for the course in the first instance. But you're actually, in terms of your filming flow, going to want to film it last, because then you'll know with 100% clarity exactly what you've covered and what you haven't. Whereas if you filmed it first, you might want to have changes after you've gone through the motion and maybe added a module that you weren't expecting. So here you can see all of the modules that appear in my Introduction to Social Media Marketing Masterclass. I have Welcome to the Class. This is very important because it sets you up as to why you are a thought leader on the topic. For example, I can say I have, 10 years of digital marketing experience. I work with big brands every day. I'm currently employed by a big brand. Whatever kind of self-promotion you want to do. On the topic of self-promotion, you can only self-promote in the intro and the outro. So don't reference that in the meat of your actual course. You're just going to want to do it in the intro and the outro, because you do get penalized and often disapproved for that sort of thing, as well as having your logo appear anywhere on the PowerPoint, Keynote, whatever slides you've created. They don't want you to self-promote further than that intro and the outro. So then I go into a platform overview of Facebook and Instagram, a platform overview of LinkedIn and Twitter, how to conduct a social media audit. This is actually the project. So I got into the project quite quickly so that people kind of knew what to expect. And so by the time they get to the end of the course, they then feel 100% kind of equipped with the task, as opposed to giving them the task at the very end. How to develop a social media strategy, executing your social media strategy, measurement and optimization for social media, paid media options made easy, my holy grail toolkit, which people didn't think was big enough because everyone wanted more tools, and then of course an outro. Cool. Then in terms of our third P, publish frequency. So you can actually publish up to a Skillshare class a week. So this is actually a course. It's not just the one subsection. So you can have multiple subsections, but in terms of the creation of that like umbrella, you can only do that once a week. So I'm sure that this isn't a problem for like anyone, because I don't know how you'd create more than, I don't know, if like multiple courses in a week, it would be very difficult. But if you maybe were going to film 3 courses and then upload them all at the same time, just be aware that you'd have to wait a week between courses. Also, once you have uploaded your course, you cannot ever delete it. So you do not want to be uploading shoddy work onto Skillshare, even if you think, okay, this is my test round and it's going to be disapproved. Like, please do not do that, because all that will happen is you'll have to individually replace all of those videos, because you cannot delete the course as a whole. You can only replace the subsection. In terms of merchandising, this is super important. So the merchandising is things like your cover images, your titling, your tags. It is very important because it's basically you then setting up shop. It means that your course will have better visibility in the search results, attract more students to click and watch, set clear expectations, and build your personal brand, which is imperative in this game. Then I just wanted to set your guys' expectations in terms of earning and what you can kind of anticipate in terms of the earning for Skillshare, because you definitely want to be clear on what you are and are not getting before you go ahead and publish. So on average, first-time teachers earn $200 in their first month in Skillshare, which I think is a very impressive stat. So you kind of want to be aiming for that. I must be honest, I only made $40 in my first month on Skillshare, and I thought I'd done something wrong, but my earnings have since rectified themselves and I still make a decent income. The first course that I made is still the most popular, and I make about $500 a month now on Skillshare. So you can actually earn upwards of $3,000 a month if you are a top instructor, which I just think is insane. So people are earning a full-time living doing this. But you must get a premium minute total of more than 30 across all your classes within a month in order to be paid. And it links with PayPal, so you will be paid through PayPal. Then in terms of the promotion side of things, this is probably the most important thing. I know I've said a lot of stuff is very important, but you need to put yourself out there, and I know how tempting it is not to tell anyone that you've created a course on Skillshare, but you absolutely have to, because otherwise you're not going to get that initial traction, and Skillshare has its own algorithm. So you definitely, once you push publish, you're gonna want to get the word out there in terms of your course. So in this promotional phase, I would definitely kind of brainstorm what are some of your selling points as a teacher, as well as the selling points of the course itself. And then that promo video that you created in your production phase, you're going to actually use with a bunch of different captions that speak to your strengths. So for me, it could be that I have experience as a digital marketing manager for 18 months, that I've done social media marketing for big brands for about 10 years, that I have 2+ years experience on YouTube building my own personal brand on social media. So this is why I'm teaching my introduction to social media marketing class. Then it's very important, if you have a mailing list, to leverage it, because you earn income from your referral link as well as from your premium minutes watched. So you get $10 for every successful sign up, regardless of whether that person continues past the free trial or not, which is an epic way of making money. And LinkedIn is also great. I use LinkedIn to promote my YouTube videos, which often will have my Skillshare link down below. So that earns me money in that sense, because people are watching YouTube videos about Skillshare, clicking my Skillshare link, and then I'm earning money from that. And then I'm actively promoting those videos about YouTube on my LinkedIn. And then finally, Facebook groups are an absolute goldmine when it comes to course creation, because not only can you promote your course, you can also see what people's FAQs are on the specific topic that you are offering. So that is it, guys. The 4P approach. I think we should patent it, or Skillshare should patent it. I really think it's a helpful approach. I think it's going to help you guys a lot in getting started. And at the end of the day, you just have to pull the trigger, and I will be there to support you. So if you are creating your first Skillshare class, please let me know down below so that I can give you a follow on Skillshare. So if you found this video helpful, please give me a like or a comment, and don't forget, of course, to subscribe to my channel. I hit 2,000 subscribers today, and I'm so thrilled about it. So please keep sharing the love to anyone you know who wants to create a Skillshare class, so that we can all become Skillshare instructors and, of course, do digital better.
I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help you out.